Hello and welcome back. It's been a while. So in today's video I'm going to go through my stat rankings for monster hunting, and it will go through some more battle stats and some of the utility stats mixed in, but this is my personal list for what you should be focusing on and what you really shouldn't be prioritizing over everything else. So we're going to go lowest to highest, and I hope you enjoy. So to start off this list, we're going to go for a mounted troop defense. Reason everything we go through will be mounted because mounted is the best monster hunters. So mounted troop defense is basically every time I've ever upgraded this, be it through your generals or through technology, it just does absolute nothing in PvE from what I've seen, and it's just a waste of time if you're looking at improving your monster hunting abilities. Moving on to number 7, this might be a very contested idea, but for me personally, number 7 is actually march size. Now, I'm not saying that march size isn't important, because obviously you need it to kill a monster. However, it shouldn't be your main focus when you're looking at killing higher monsters. There are much more important things you should be focusing on, especially if you look at the boss battle simulators, such as the one that Evony Wiki Guides has done. It is relatively accurate from what I've seen, and honestly, march size is one of those things you use to just tip yourself over an edge of something, but it's something that you'll be upgrading as you're going along anyway, and there's not too much you can do to make it higher. But also, it's the amount that you get through buffing it up and the cost that it takes to get that, it's not amazing. It's something where, obviously, for PvP, march size is a hell of a lot more important. For monsters, it's, to me, very debatable if it's actually a major focus that you should have, and for me, that's why it ranks so low at number 7. Moving on to number 6 is the monster attack debuff. Now, the reason I've put this here is mainly because, again, like some of the lower ones, it shouldn't be a priority, but it's a nice sort of a mid-max that you can do. Now, the only problem with this is this one is specifically for certain troops. So you have, like, Muritriza has a -10. There are other generals that have this as well. You can get it on the Rurikax if I go back. The Rurikax has this, and there are other bits of gear that also have it. It is one of those ones where it helps immensely to reduce your wounded or deserters, especially if you use a deserter trick with the Holy Palace, which is in another video. Moving on to number 5 is a very similar thing where it's mounted HP. The reason I put it slightly higher is there are a lot more ways that you can get this, and it's through buffs that are much more accessible, and you can do without actually having to focus it on specific generals or gear. Now, it's not quite as effective as the monster attack reduction. However, you can get it from a lot more places, and it does stack up incrementally. So having an extra 1% HP is much different to having a 1% monster attack reduction. However, you can get a hell of a lot more of it, and over time it really does stack up on how many troops it can save on monsters that you can't kill outright. Moving on to number 4 is one of our first sort of utility skills that I would say is the item drop rate. Now, you can get this through specific generals, but you can also get this through like the books as well. There is, I go to Defender Green of mine, the luck book that you can also take. Now, this for me is a really important skill to have, especially if you can get it over that 50% margin, and the closer you get to 100%, even better, because obviously killing one monster is brilliant, but if you can get the rewards of 2, even better. And it's a way of not just having double the rewards, so making, say, a level 3 lava turtle give you, instead of 700,000 resources of each, 1.4, which level 3 1.5 million of each resource give you 3. It's also a way of kind of reducing that amount of stamina that you're using to get these resources. Now, the reason it is number 4 and not higher is because is very difficult to get, and you do need to have it on certain champions. But also, in a video that I will be creating and uploading soon, you will see that actually in some ways item drop rate, once you hit a certain point, will be less of a quality stat to have than something like our number 3, which is stamina reduction. So stamina reduction you can get through certain champions, generals such as Nathaniel Green, Maria Teresa, Sonada as well. This is very much a general based skill. I don't believe you can get stamina reduction any other way, and it is one that you definitely want, the same as item drop rate, on sort of any of your marches if possible, but especially on your rally joiners. So with this one, obviously Nathaniel Green can give you 25%, Maria Teresa I believe is 30% eventually, and then Sonada's like 10%. It's one of those ones where it adds up and it's really quite impactful, because in some ways if you can get it closer to that 40% mark, which I believe is the cap, if someone can correct me in the comments, that'd be amazing. But that effectively does the exact same as an item drop rate, where it just reduces that stamina, so you're getting sort of double the amount for the stamina. You cost obviously slightly less because it's 40%, but alongside that item drop rate as well, you're getting a lot more for your stamina, and we all know how difficult it is to get stamina. So that is why it is my number 3. So number 2 is your mounted troop attack, which obviously comes in PvP, but also your monster as well. So example, this one has when leading the army to kill monsters, but then also just that 15% which brings dragon. But then you've got your normal PvP marches, which will give it as just a, and you've got books and plenty of places you can get this. So looking at your Evony wiki boss simulator, which I use to help understand these mechanics a bit more, how I've worked it out is for T14, roughly a 50% increase in mounted troop attack means you need 100,000 less troops to kill a monster, or to kill it without taking any wounded. So that is a significant amount of less troops you need, which is why, for example, things like march size for me are so much lower, is because this impacts it a hell of a lot more than the march size. It's much easier to get 50% mounted troop attack than 100,000 march size. Now, compared to the top one though, this is the easiest stat to get, the mounted troop attack, and it's the one that you can work on the absolute most compared to the majority of these buffs. However, compared to the top one, it is just not, they're in 2 completely different leagues, and our number 1 is your monster defense debuff. Now this does have a limit of 50%, but it just means that you need half the amount of troops that you would do usually to kill a monster. And the main problem with this one is that it's only on specific gear and generals, so it's not the easiest one to get. However, if you want your one high reward monster hunter, getting 50% with something like your rope braces, a Caesar, or a Sonada, or there's plenty of, like a Beowulf, there's plenty of generals that can also give it, along with gear, and you can amplify the gear and everything. Having even just the 20% is just a massive difference. You will be able to kill monsters way out of your league, and especially with them releasing big monsters like the Azael, the B21, or the Krakens, the B20s. It's just a necessity to have on your top generals if you're wanting to kill these monsters with the most efficient, least costly marches, and it does the most difference to things like how many troops you need, how many you lose. It's just the biggest stat of them all, and you need to make sure that your top march, if you are killing monsters yourself, has this stat. If they do not have this stat, you are handicapping yourself on what monsters you can kill and lowering the potential of your monster hunting abilities. So I hope this has helped. This is my personal rankings for what I look at when going through my monster hunters and how I can improve them, and what I will look for in the generals as well as the equipment that I'm using. Now obviously some of this will change if it's joining rallies or if it's just trying to kill the best monsters possible. However, this is a great way to have a look at it, because even things like monster defense, if you send out sonadas and stuff, it does still impact the rally, so it could actually mean that the person leading the rally actually can get more mounted attack and things like this, which I believe I have covered in another video. Anyway, before I ramble on too much more, thank you very much for watching, and it's good to be back, and hopefully this has helped some of the newer players especially focus their priorities when coming to monsters. See you in the next one.